Do you have short or long-term disability insurance? Do you not know if you have it? If you have it at your employer workplace, do you know what it covers?
If not, watch this video to see 5 things that you really should be focused on, and if you watch until the end, we'll give you a pro tip, something that most people don't think about when they're thinking about disability insurance. We're Shannon and Michael, we're with Healthcare Genius, and we are here today to talk about disability, again, all the things that you should know. So the first thing that you should know is whether or not you have an individual policy. And if you do, Michael, what's kind of the primary thing that you should be focused on?
So when you're looking at individual, we always say, what's the amount? So how much do you have? Again, a lot of people will purchase disability insurance and maybe it was 5 years ago, their income has increased since then, they haven't updated that. So if something did happen to them, they may not be covered to the amount that they're expecting.
Right, and there is a maximum amount that you can be covered for. It's a percentage of your income. But what we see that's really common is people will just buy a policy, think they're done, but then, a couple years later, maybe 5 years later, maybe less than that, they're making more money than they were when they purchased the policy, and they have an opportunity to increase the amount that they're covered, and they just don't do it. So definitely something to be thinking about and to be updating whenever you can.
If you have it at your work site, so if you've got short or long-term disability at work, you should really understand how much that will cover, because in most cases with short-term, $1,000 a week tends to be the maximum, so $4,000 a month. And then when you look at long-term, the prevalent coverage is $6,000 a month is the maximum for most plans. So if you're making over $100,000, then you may not be covered sufficiently if something happened to you.
That's right. Our third point is what really defines disability. So there's 2 kind of options here. Michael, do you want to talk about that?
It's very important to understand the definition of disability, especially if you're a doctor, a lawyer, maybe an architect, an accountant, to know exactly what the insurance company is going to look at to define if you're disabled or not. Traditionally, that's own occupation. A lot of group policies will cap that own occupation coverage for 2 years. A lot of individual policies have it out to age 65 or to normal retirement age for Social Security. So you need to know how that is going to impact you, because as an example, if you're a surgeon and you lose the use of your hand, so you can no longer perform surgery, a 2-year own occupation definition is not really going to benefit you from the perspective of being compensated for not being able to perform surgery.
Right. Yeah, it's really important to have the most appropriate type of policy for whatever your job is, whatever your career is, so you're not, forced to enter a profession that you don't have any experience in, any training, or frankly, any interest in. The fourth point is timing, and thinking about the timing in short and long-term disability policies as kind of a time deductible. So a lot of people that are in a position where they become disabled, whether it's a short-term disability or long-term disability, and think that they should be paid right away, when in reality that's not really how it works. Every policy is a little bit different, but there are kind of these time deductibles. So how does that generally work, Michael?
When it comes to short-term disability, you'll see 7 to 14-day waiting periods, meaning that you're going to have to cover that first week or two of being out of work. Now, if you have employer coverage, sometimes you have paid time off that can go to where you're still getting paid to help offset that deductible.
But keep in mind, generally these are unexpected things that happen, so maybe you already ran through your PTO.
Well, when it comes to long-term disability, a lot of plans will match up, so you might have a 3-month period for short-term, and then after 90 days, that's when the long-term disability kicks in. The one thing that we always caution people to understand is that if you are in that 90th day and the short-term disability stop paying you, it's going to be another 30 days before the long-term disability will kick in to actually send you a check. We had this happen with a client recently, and they had to go a month without any income because, yes, they do have long-term disability. It will pay them, but they have to wait that extra 30 days. So it really doesn't pay you till the 120th day.
The fifth thing that you should be looking at is what is the actual coverage amount. And if you are somebody who either gets bonuses or gets a salary and then a lot of your income is commission, this is something you really, really need to look at and make sure you know exactly what's covered, because in some cases, like my husband's, for example, the majority of his income is commission. It's not his salary. And so it was important when we were looking at a disability policy to supplement what his employer was offering, because that was such a small amount of his income.
Great point, Shannon. When you're looking at your group disability policy, long-term especially, make sure you understand what coverages there are. Sometimes bonuses aren't covered. Again, a lot of professions, bonuses make up a big part of somebody's income. Mm-hmm. The commissions certainly are another big one. So understand that. Get that policy, go to your HR department, ask for a copy of the policy. It'll explain all of those different definitions so that you can understand what you're covered for. Again, we always talk about this, sitting at the kitchen table with your family. You should be able to describe to your spouse or loved ones what your benefit is, when it kicks in, and really understand how you're going to pay for those things that we've talked about, the deductible, the 60% of your salary. How are you going to pay for that extra cost if something does happen to you?
Right. This is something that's really, really important to us. If you can't do what Michael just said, please, please, please either talk to somebody, make sure you have all these questions answered. If you don't have somebody that you're comfortable talking to, we do these reviews for free because we think they're so important. So feel free to go ahead and look at the link in our description below where you can apply to become a client, and we can give you a complimentary review, see if there's any holes, or just give you the ability to understand the policy that you do have. And since you stayed and watched the video until the end, we're going to give you our pro tip, and that is something that we mentioned earlier. This is kind of a solution to that. So we mentioned that for group, if your employer is the one who is providing you with disability insurance, it's not going to cover your current income, and that can be really problematic for some people. But did you know that you can have a policy that your employer offers, and you can also have an individual policy to kind of supplement that gap?
Great policies. We call it individual disability insurance, offered in a lot of employers on top of what the group policy is, where the employee pays for that. And it will protect, again, that's 40% that you're not covered. The other thing about individual policies, if you're paying for them, that's all tax-free income because
Absolutely.
It's not deductible. Whereas on your group policy, if your employer's paying for that, then it becomes taxable income to you.
That's right. So thanks for watching this video. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below. Let us know what you think. Make sure you subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell so you know when we come out with new content. Again, if you need some help, go ahead and apply to become our client, and we're happy to provide you with a review.